Prologue. Lysira entered the enormous cavern that was ancient hall of parliament for dragonkind. The entrance was located in the tallest peak of snow-capped mountain range, gaping black against the white-shrouded crags. The opening had been carved hundreds of centuries ago by dragon magic. No need to hide it from humans. Not this far up the mountainside. The entrance was large enough to accommodate a dragon in flight. Lysira was small for her kind, and she swooped into the entryway with ease, glad to leave behind the glare of the sun, glittering the snow for the restful darkness of the hall. The dragon spiraled downward, drifting on the whispering air currents, listening to the silence that was dark in her mind. The hall was empty. Parliament was not in session. She was not really supposed to be here. But she felt drawn to this place. Disturbed and troubled, she did not know what to do or where to turn for answers. So she decided to come here. Perhaps if she were in the hall itself, she would be able to glean some of the wisdom of those who came before her, pick up a trace of their colors, learn from their experience. At least, that's what she told herself, gliding downward on steel wings toward the floor that was far below her. Lysira was bitterly disappointed. She saw only darkness. The cavern was empty. If there were ghosts, they slumbered in the eternal dragon dream that was death. Upset, Lysira was not paying attention to what she was doing, and the floor came up on her before she was ready for it. She landed with an ungraceful thud, nearly going over on her nose. Recovering, she was thankful that no one was here to have witnessed such a fledgling bumble. She was especially glad that one particular dragon was not present, the walker, Draconas. Her scales rippled all over in embarrassment at the thought. In truth, it was because she'd been thinking of him, everything he'd said at the last session of Parliament, that she had botched her landing. But she couldn't decide if it was his words that bothered her, or if it was the way his colors had gently touched her. Settling on the floor, tucking her wings in at her flanks, and wrapping her long tail around her feet, Lysira gazed around the dark, empty cavern and sighed. She could at last admit to herself that she'd been hoping rather unrealistically that she would find Draconas here. She didn't know why she expected him to be in the empty hall. Perhaps because he wasn't anywhere else. Dragons communicate mentally, mind to mind. You see images and vibrant colors to exchange ideas. A dragon may block another from entering his mind, just as human can stop from others from entering his house. But just as the house is still there, so is the mind of the dragon. Though the colors are unreadable and prohibit entry, they shimmer like foxfire in the night, and Dracona's colors were nowhere to be seen. Dragons dislike making hasty decisions. Lysira had been settled ever since the last meeting of Parliament. The turmoil. The meeting in which Draconis had disclosed that the two children born to the human woman, Melisande, could communicate mind to mind as could dragons. Not only that, but these humans could actually enter the mind of dragons. This was an awful, dreadful, catastrophic calamity. What's more, Draconis had told Parliament that one of their number was a traitor. One of them was feeding information to the rogue dragon Maristara and her cohort, Rald. Because of this, Draconis had hidden away the two children, and he refused to tell anyone, even Anora, the wise elder dragon, the minister of the parliament. Where they were to be found, and also claimed that this was same traitor had been responsible for the death of her father and Bronn, Lysira's brother. That meeting had taken place 16 years ago, a long time by human standards, a mere blink eye by dragon measuring. Lysirus had spent those years dithering, wavering back and forth, trying to decide if she would talk to Draconis or not. For a couple of years, she thought she wouldn't. He was the walker, the dragon that took human shape to walk among humans and keep an eye on them. He had therefore lots of humans' images in his mind, images Lysira found disturbing and distasteful and fascinating. It was the fascinating part that bothered her. She'd seen only a few of these images the last time he'd spoken to her, and she had since discovered that they were kept cropping up in her dreams, breaking her tranquility. As she might, she couldn't banish them. She didn't want to see any more of them, and yet she did. Once, she had made up her mind, and she would talk to him. A few more years passed before she found the courage to do so. She would start to approach him, and then she would shy away and retreat back to her lair in a flutter of confusion. This made her angry, and for the next year or so, she turned her anger at Draconis and blamed him as the cause of all the trouble. She knew she was being irrational. He wasn't the cause. Maristara had startled it all by seizing that human kingdom, and then breeding humans with dragons to produce humans with dragon magic. Lysira didn't like to admit that part. At this point, she decided that she didn't need Draconis. She'd find out who the traitor dragon was on her own. Lysira's investigations were half-hearted, however, and didn't get her anywhere. The other dragons she questioned were brusque and even rude. They obviously did not want to think about any of this. They were hoping it would all go away. They shut their minds to her and shooed her off, which brought Lysira right back to Draconis. She would talk to him. She was determined to talk to him. Boldly trembling, Lysira reached out her colors to him, only to find that the colors of his mind were gone, as though they had been wiped away by a wet sponge. Lysira crouched in the empty hall of Parliament, first time, she began to be afraid, not only for Draconis, but for herself and all of dragonkind. Anora felt true regret that she had to kill Draconis. Of all the walkers who had sacrificed their dragon form to take on the illusion of a human, Draconis had been the best. One of the hazards of being a walker, of living among humans, was that the dragon tended to either become too human, in which case he forgot the reason he'd been sent to walk among humans in the first place, or he remained too dragon, in which case he moped and pouted and whined about having to put up with the inconveniences of being human. Draconis had been the first to separate the two halves of his being, maintaining a firm division between the dragon and the humans. Even now, though it appeared that he was acting for the humans, siding with the humans and protecting the humans, Anora knew better. Draconis was just doing what he was doing because he was firmly believed he was helping his own kind. Admirable, mistaken but admirable. She stood, masked by illusion, inside a building where she'd set her trap for Draconis. Watching him from the shadows, she pondered the idea of letting him live. She could try to explain to him that he was wrong. Hoping he'd see reason, she discarded the thought with a regretful sigh. Draconis' asset had become his liability. He was working hard to keep humans and dragons at peace, as they had been since the first human had raised himself up of all fours. Draconis would never understand why that peace had to end, and Anora knew she could never be made to understand. He had to die. Draconis had his back to her. She'd been spying on him from the moment he entered the abandoned building. He was here to set a trap for the dragon Rald, the master of Dragonkeep. Rald, disguised in his own stolen human body, was heading this direction. Rald and Anora were in the contact, the colors of their minds blending. Though not very harmoniously, Anora was thinking of her own lofty goals. Rald was thinking of vengeance, but what could you expect? Rald was a dragon of the baser sort. He did not come from one of the noble families of dragonkind, who had ruled the world for centuries. In human terms, Rald was a peasant. He'd been brought into this conspiracy by Marstara, who had chosen him because he was a peasant, rough and crude, and not overly educated. The elder female dragon, Marstara, had formed a theory, a brilliant theory, that if the dragons and humans bred, they would produce offspring that would look human, but would be capable of using dragon magic. Anora remembered how shocked and appalled she'd been at first hearing Marstara's proposal. Brought to her in secret, she'd been adamantly opposed to it. only did it break all laws of dragonkind, it could prove dragons. It would be dangerous for dragons. Creating humans with magical powers, it was not to be considered. Marstara had defied her and seized a human kingdom in order to begin her experiments. Anora had vowed that she would do everything in her power to stop her. Time passed. The dragons were their usual ineptness and inability to make decisions bungled any chance of halting Marstara. The experiments in breeding proceeded and went far better than even Marstara had hoped. Sadly, as time passed, Anora had come to see things Marstara's way. These humans with dragon magic in their blood proved to be so powerful that they intimidated lesser humans. Thus, they made perfect rulers. And because these humans had dragon blood in their veins, they were easily manipulated by the dragons. Dragons ruled the half-dragon humans who ruled the humans. Perfect all around. Marstara needed a male dragon to start the breeding program. The humans, females of South, she didn't dare choose one of the males of the noble houses, for fear a word would get out. She selected a male from a family of lesser dragons, a young male aggressive and ambitious and cruel. His name was Rald. She taught Rald the secrets of ripping the heart out of living human body, taking over the body, making it his own. A task far less complicated and time-consuming than casting the supreme illusion spell that changed the Cronus into a human. Unlike Marstara, who used the human bodies she took to disguise their true form, Rald usurped the human bodies, giving them his name and taking over their personalities. He was on his 6th human right now, and this was his favorite. He had found something better. However, he was looking forward eagerly to taking over the next body, that of his own son. Before that could happen, Anora and Rald had to kill Draconis, who had done everything in his power to thwart them. I think you would understand, Anora said silently to Draconis, speaking to his back, as he stood across from her in the doorway of the building, sharpening his walking staff into a spear. I think you might even take our side, but I can't be sure. You formed attachments among humans. You hid Melisandre's children away from us. If Fen had not cried out to us for help, we might never have discovered them. Quit sniveling, Anora. He should have died long ago. Rald's colors intruded rudely into hers, and Anora haughtily didn't deign to reply. She saw no need to explain herself to underlings. Marstara let Rald take too many liberties. She should keep him in his place. Where are you? Anora asked, her colors chill. I am inside of the house. My son summoned me, Rald added, with smoked triumph. He betrayed his brother, as he told you he would, to gain the female like father, like son. Rald chuckled. I is devious. Devious is a dragon. In many ways, I should know. I spent weeks in his company. All the better for me when I take over his body. You'll acquire a brain at least, Honora thought, but she kept the caustic comment concealed beneath the cold flow of her colors. Dissimulation was not difficult to practice and roll. I never bothered to look beneath the surface of any conversation. Don't come closer, Honora warned. I'm about to strike. Take care, don't hurt Van. Ralph said, I need his body whole and strong. The only one hurt will be Draconis, Honora said softly. She began to creep up on him as he stood, unsuspecting, staring out the door. He was in his human form, holding the spear he had fashioned in his hands across the street, and Nora could hear the voices of human males raised in argument, probably squabbling over the human female. Ideal cover, for they were proving a distraction to Draconis, who looked in that direction and frowned. Strike now, Ralph ordered suddenly. Strike him from behind, before he knows what's hit him. Concentrating on Draconis, Nora had unwittingly left her mental process open to Ralph. She slammed shut the door to her thoughts and refused to answer it. He couldn't understand their strategy anyway. It is difficult to take a dragon by surprise. While a dragon is conscious, he can easily defend himself. Dragons must sleep, however, and when they sleep deeply, for years at a time. There was the chance that another dragon of some enterprising human might slay the slumbering dragon. Thus, over the centuries, dragons had developed a means of self-protection. The moment Honora launched a weapon at Draconis, magical or otherwise, his dragon being would act to take defensive measures and fight back. Her plan was to reveal herself to him. Let him see that the human he had known all his years as the Holy Sister was in truth the head of Parliament, a venerable dragon he had long respected and trusted. She calculated that the shock of seeing her, knowing at the last moment that she was going to be his tomb, would suck all the fight out of him, leave him breathless, winded, amazed, then dead. She was quite close to Draconis now. He was preoccupied, tense for the kill. He didn't hear sound, didn't sense her presence. Draconis, said Honora, gently in her human voice. He jumped, startled, and looked over his shoulder. Get out of here, sister, Draconis told her roughly. This is none of your concern. Ah, but it is, said Honora. At that moment, Draconis knew she was the knowledge in his eyes as she saw her reflection, the shadow of the dragon rising up behind the Holy Sister, extending its wings and its claws. The colors of Draconis' mind came crashing down around him. I don't understand, he gasped. I know, Draconis, said Honora, softly, and her colors were gray ash. The pity is, you never will. Lightning crackled from her jaws. That ends the story now. I hope you all enjoyed, and see you